Hello and welcome to Virtual Investor Conferences. My name is Bob Power, and on behalf of OTC Markets, as well as our co-host, Zacks Small Cap Research, we're very pleased you've joined us for our next live presentation from Reviva Pharmaceutical Holdings. Please note you can submit questions in the box to the left of the slides. At this point, I'm very pleased to welcome the next presenters. John Vandermosten, CFA, Senior Life Science Analyst with Zacks Small Cap Research, and Dr. Lax Bhatt, Founder, President, and CEO of Reviva Pharmaceuticals Holdings, which trades on NASDAQ under the symbol RVPH. Welcome, John and Lax.
Thank you. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you. As Bob mentioned, I'm Senior Life Sciences Analyst John Vandermosten, joined by the CEO of Reviva Pharmaceuticals, Dr. Laxminarayan Bhatt. Reviva recently raised some capital that will support the second of two pivotal trials evaluating brilaroxazine in schizophrenia. So, Dr. Bhatt, please bring us up to date on where we are in the clinical trial development process and what we should expect to see in 2024.
Sure. Thanks, John. Thanks for having me here. Before I, answered your questions, just to give a very brief background about schizophrenia for the benefit of viewers. Schizophrenia is a debilitating mental illness. It is one of the leading disability worldwide. And globally, around 24 million people suffer from schizophrenia. US alone, close to 4 million, and in Europe, approximately 7 million people. The the most concerning fact in this patient population is the onset of disease is early teenage or early adulthood. Often the schizophrenia patients, they have multiple comorbidities because besides that, schizophrenia itself is not a single disease. That causes a complication in developing novel therapies or broad spectrum therapies that not only address multiple symptom domains of schizophrenia, but comorbidities as well. That lead to, if you look at the current statistics, either multiple medications are available, but despite that, around 30% patients, they do not respond to currently available treatment, or they do not, continue to take that medication. So these are the major concern. So now, having said that, now coming to the unmet needs in schizophrenia, and then what we are doing at Reviva. So with this brief introduction, the schizophrenia developing a new therapy is quite challenging because the complexity associated with schizophrenia and then comorbidities. So the currently available treatments either inadequate or suboptimal to treat multiple symptom domains over the course, and then also the side effect associated with that lead to discontinuation. So our drug, brilaroxazine, is a novel therapy that targets the primary mechanism that is causing schizophrenia, dysfunctional dopamine serotonin in the brain. We have treated with our drug so far over 800 patients, and then based on the available data, not only for the efficacy and then safety and tolerability, we believe this could be a drug that can be benefit majority schizophrenia patient population.
Okay, so you gave us a good introduction there, and brilaroxazine is an atypical antipsychotic in phase 2 trials, as you had mentioned. Tell us how it addresses some of the shortcomings of what's now available. I mean, you mentioned some of those, some of those shortcomings, and a few others might be, weight gain, just taking the medicine and it's not agreeing with the person. What are some of those things that you're overcoming with brilaroxazine that aren't met right now?
Sure. So as I highlighted here, there are multiple factors we need to consider while developing a novel therapy or therapy that could benefit patients at large in this space. So now there are two aspects to that, and then the third aspect that comes that is related to these two. The first aspect is efficacy. So, as I mentioned, schizophrenia is not a single disease. Rather, it is a mix of multiple symptoms. Like, the major symptom domains are positive symptom, negative symptom, and cognitive deficits. We call mood. It's a predominantly depression. And then there is also another, the morbidity or the disease component is neuroinflammation. Neuroinflammation not only uh, increase or contribute to the psychotic symptoms, but also it is believed to contribute to autoimmune diseases as well, because autoimmune related conditions are significant in this patient population. Now, with this background, I can just quickly display our recent phase 2 data just to connect how our drug, addressing all the major symptom domains associated with schizophrenia. Maybe I can correlate that one with the currently available treatment so that viewers can have an idea or they can make a reasonable judgment about our data, how well it is differentiated. So now, if you look at here, the data what we reported, this is the primary endpoint in the phase 3 study. So the drug, we used two doses, 15 milligram low dose, and then high dose is 50 milligram compared to placebo. It was a 4 weeks trial. And then study met the primary endpoint with a good statistical outcome, early onset of action within a week. That's extremely important. Quick onset of action and continue to improve in the week 4. So the effect size, that is kind of one can correlate how good is the treatment effect. It's 0.6 compared to industry standard with other widely used antipsychotics. This is really a robust data to my knowledge. Now, this is about the primary endpoint, but the secondary endpoints play a very critical role in the schizophrenia too. In other words, you can compare that secondary endpoints is a tool to determine broad spectrum efficacy to treat schizophrenia patients. As I mentioned at the beginning, schizophrenia is not a single disease. So in the primary endpoint alone, often one cannot make a real judgment how good is this drug. We have to consider the secondary endpoint as well. Now, if I quickly highlight the secondary endpoints, this is a great data primary endpoint. Secondary endpoints are positive symptoms. That is, almost every single drug got approved currently in the market. They all showed this secondary endpoint statistically significance because they are very closely related to primary endpoint. However, the most important secondary endpoints are negative symptom. If you look at the negative symptom here, this is a great data in 4 weeks of treatment, and then it showed statistically significant outcome. There are two scales widely used evaluating efficacy for negative symptom. This is one scale widely used. The second one is a Marder factor, we call it. This is a very kind of a focused scale to evaluate negative symptom. Again, if you look at here, in the first week itself, it is a quite good data effect, statistically significant outcome in the first week, and then continue to improve over the 4 week with a good effect size. So this is, to my knowledge, this is really a good data, superior data. Often when you see the negative symptom, this one can consider this as a reflective of long-term outcome, the quick recovery, or to a great extent, mitigating the relapse in this symptom. So in the currently available antipsychotics, for approved antipsychotics are also approved for other, besides schizophrenia, to bipolar and major depressive disorder, so showed good effect on negative symptoms. So having this data, we believe, there is, we would like to extend this one for additional indications like bipolar, major depressive disorder. Now, the other factors, often when you talk to other physicians or other companies, often we hear positive and negative symptoms, but there are other factors closely related, we evaluate in that, such as, cognitive function. So majority of schizophrenia patients, depression patients, they have dysfunctional cognitive dysfunction is this is a serious problem. Here, consistently in the phase 2 and then in this phase 3, as you can see, social cognition, statistically significant outcome. And then also the another secondary endpoint we evaluate is excitement and agitation. This is also another comorbidity in these patients. Again, a good outcome. So PSP is a kind of a social functioning. They are very close to, very interrelated to negative symptom and social cognition. Again, as you can see here, robust data for both the doses. Lastly, the efficacy standpoint, we use a CGI. CGI is a clinical global impression scale. This is a complementary to the primary endpoint. So if you look at here, this is again a very much similar to what we generated in the PANS primary endpoint, very robust data. And in this study, 78% patients showed significant efficacy in the study. That is really, to my knowledge, is very remarkable. As at the beginning, I showed around 30% patients, they do not take medication or do not respond to the treatment. And then also, in all the other control studies reported in this space, dropout rate in similar trials are anywhere 30 to 45%. So that means over 1/3 of the patients, they discontinue, do not respond. Here, or we discontinue or do not respond to various reasons. 78% patients showing a significant outcome. This is really, to my knowledge, good. So overall, what I mean to say here is, as you with this summary, I wanted to capture this one. This drug has shown really good efficacy, not only for the primary endpoint, the secondary endpoints as well. Now, coming to this, if you look at another factor is comparing this data with the phase 2 study data. It's a very consistent data, all the key efficacy endpoints. So,
and how many people have we observed that in, Dr. Bhatt?
well,
How many
yeah, in
total
the
phase 3 so far?
phase 2 study, we treated 234 patients. In the
Okay.
phase 3, it was 411 patients.
Okay.
So altogether, over 600 patients. And then
Yeah.
we are currently running a open label study where we are evaluating both efficacy and then safety long-term study. Few patients already completed 1 year treatment. Currently, over 170 patients are currently in the open label study. This is really, so far the data generated to date, we feel very comfortable this is going to benefit patients if it approves to market.
There was one thing on a previous slide that I wanted to point out that I thought was really important. Many schizophrenia patients stop taking their medicines due to side effects, and you had a really good discontinuation rate there. And I think generally, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the discontinuation rate on drug is usually higher than placebo, but yours was actually lower. So, I think that's a pretty important thing, because one of the problems is that patients, while the drug may work, if patients don't take it, it doesn't matter, right? So maybe you can talk about that statistic,
Sure.
which was one of the things that I really liked about the results of the cover.
Often when we think in general, when we think of drug efficacy, and we think that maybe, it may be one week or 2 weeks treatment, but reality in this patient population, treatment is lifelong. So besides efficacy, safety is also equally important. As you rightly mentioned, historical data, dropout rate or a discontinuation rate in this type of trials is higher than placebo with the treatment. With our drug, we have consistently showed in the phase 2 as well as in the phase 3, our dropout rate with our drug is much lower than the placebo. If you look at the historical data, placebo dropout rate anywhere around a 25 to 28% in the 4-week study. Here we reported 22%, very close to the historical data. With the treatment arm, the dropout rate is less than 20%. With the 50 milligram highest dose, we have seen 16% dropout. And then another factor, if you look at on the right-hand side statistics here, side effect related dropout. This is very interesting. So, as I mentioned, treatment related dropout is around a 30 to 45%. Out of that, one third to 50 and almost a 30 to 50%, depending upon the which drug we are talking, the dropout related to side effects. Here, we haven't seen not a single dropout related to side effect in the 50 milligram. That's the most efficacious dose. So that speaks, loud and clear the side effects and tolerability profile of this drug. Certainly good. Yeah.
So the data you've shown us so far gets us pretty excited about the next step, which is the phase 3 recovery trial.
Yep, we are very excited.
Yeah. Tell us about how that's going to come about, what the timing looks like, and I think you're also making some changes to it. You're going to modify it, based on things you've learned. You're going to modify it a little bit. I think maybe with the dosages. Share with us the details on that.
Sure. This is the kind of it gives you kind of a comparative of different trials and then where we stand. So in the phase 2 study, we put 234 patients, acute patients. They are hospitalized patients. In the phase 3 pivotal trial, we put 412 patients, and then with the 2 doses, 15 and then 50. In the phase 2, we put 3 doses, 15, 30, and then 50, 4 weeks trial. The trial we completed phase 3 study, that's again the similar protocol as phase 2, 4 weeks trial with the 2 doses, 15 and then 50. 50 milligram worked very well. And 15 is a directional improvement. And then in the second study, pivotal study, we are planning to start soon. That study, we are keeping a 30 milligram low dose and then high dose 50 milligram as in the previous study. The trial design and the demography, everything essentially same, except in the second study, we are going to do 6 weeks. The one we completed now, that was a 4-week study. That's the only difference. Otherwise, it's an identical protocol almost.
Yeah, and I think you get better response the longer you're on drug. And I think what happens is maybe the placebo effect tempers a bit, and the drug effect improves a bit. So you might actually get a better p-value on that. Is that kind of the thought?
Yes, we expect a better p-value as well as a better effect size as well. If you look at that all depends on drug to drug. Some drugs after 3 weeks gives a kind of a plateau effect. But if you look at it, our drug, 4 weeks, it's kind of sharp going down.
Yeah, it looks like the trend. I mean, the trend, unless it turns up, it looks like the trend is continuing in the right direction.
Yeah. So we expect much better effect size, the placebo-adjusted outcome, and then a good p-value as well, better than what we generated.
Okay, very good. And it looks like that the trial is going to be a little bit bigger. You're going to try a little bit higher dosage and a little bit longer duration of treatment. Are those the summary of all the changes?
Yes, the highest dose is same as what we used in the phase 2 and then previous phase 3. The low dose, in some patients maybe it is too low. So what we are going is a 1 step up low dose, so that what we would like to have the early onset of action clinically meaningful. We believe increasing the low dose from 15 to 30 milligram, we may be able to see clinically meaningful within a week, because in this patient population, quick onset of action is very important.
And why don't you explain why that's important from a clinical perspective, or from a doctor's perspective, who's prescribing? Why is it important to have quick onset of action?
So often, when schizophrenia patients come to acute setup, we call it as in the pharmacological term or clinical pharmacology, the onset of drug. Because when a patient take a medicine, what goes in the systemic circulation, in the blood circulation, that is related to what the effect what we see. So the how much the steady state what we see in the blood circulation, some of the drugs that takes around 14 to 17 days, in some at least one drug up to 20 days reported. The longer it take to get a steady state, then the variability and then onset of action delayed. In our case, it reaches steady state on the fifth day. That's the reason why we believe, if you look at the data here, we have seen efficacy on the primary endpoint on the first week itself. That means drug has a quick onset of action. Patients can get quick relief. That is very important. So just a separation from placebo is one thing. Having a significant efficacy within a week, that gives a immense benefit to patients' relief. So that's what we believe our drug will have, providing that benefit with a quick onset of action.
Okay. And are there any parallel studies you need to take care of to, looking forward to the application of the FDA? Any other studies that you need to complete or have completed that are important for this application?
For this, as we announced in the last press release, so our plan is to initiate the second phase 3 study quickly. And then we believe, based on our development plan, mid of 2025, we will be able to submit NDA application. And then 2026, in the first half of 2026, drug we expect to be, if agency approves, it should be in the market. Now, to run up to that, what you are asking me, besides this phase 3 study, is there any other study we need to complete for filing an NDA? We completed most of the studies required to file NDA, like a toxicology study, all the clinical pharmacology study. Most of them already been completed. So even the drug manufacturing currently is in progress. We believe by mid of next year, 2024, we will be completing most of the studies required for filing an NDA, except the ongoing clinical studies that we expect. Yes, they expect to complete in the Q2 next year, 2025. Yeah.
Okay. Very good. Sounds like you got a good handle on all that. So wanted to move on to the obligatory M&A question for you. M&A has been pretty strong this year, and there is a set of acquisitions in the CNS space. And there was one recently that I thought was particularly interesting. AbbVie's bid for Cerevel Therapeutics for $8.7 billion. Does that carry through for any value, or indicate anything to you about the market? Seeing that transaction come across the wire.
As you know, anytime there is a big M&A happens, that certainly will have domino effect, positive effect in the space. We believe that recent what you mentioned, M&A. That will have certainly a positive impact in the space, schizophrenia, neuropsychiatry in general. So, again, considering this space has a significant unmet need, a new drug that can benefit patients with the incremental or a significant benefit. So in the past, market responded very well. So we believe, yes, to answer your question, this will have a positive impact in general. That's what we also believe.
Okay, very good. Yeah, I would agree with you there. Let's see. So moving on to audience questions. I think we have time for a few. What happens to your other indications? Because you have a pretty broad pipeline, or pretty long pipeline. What happens to your other indications like ADHD, major depressive disorder, and bipolar disorder? What's the status of those programs? Oh, and here we go. Here's the pipeline.
Yeah. So this is our pipeline. Some of the indications highlighted here, neuropsychiatric, especially bipolar and major depressive disorder. The currently available treatments are first approved for schizophrenia, and then later on they were developed for bipolar and major depressive disorder. So the viewers who are not familiar with this space, the schizophrenia, since it's not a single disease. Some of the symptoms in schizophrenia, what we evaluate, they closely resemble bipolar or major depressive disorder. So having a broad spectrum activity in schizophrenia, that gives to a great extent whether this drug can be developed for additional indications. We believe, based on the data, especially the secondary endpoints, this can be developed for bipolar major depressive disorder. Yes, we intend to start the clinical development for that, but the first focus is to schizophrenia. Then yes, we intend to develop other indications.
Okay, very good. And kind of a follow on to the M&A talk that we were just having. Partnerships. Are you working on any partnerships? And do you think any of those, if you are working on them or trying to work on them, do you look for partnerships that might eventually lead to an acquisition or something like that?
Well, as a company, we work for to maximize the value for our shareholders. At this time, we are keeping all the options open. Especially after the top line data announcement, we received inbound requests from major pharma interest in our program. Currently, a few companies are doing due diligence, so we remain very optimistic about the partnership as well. Again, having a generated good data, we keep partnering option, including M&A options open. And the goal is to maximize the value for our shareholders.
Okay, very good. That makes sense. So another question here, asking for a comparison of the drug to Abilify, Zyprexa, and other approved antipsychotics that we've probably all heard about. How does broloxazine compare to those?
So here is a comparison.
Oh wow, you got a slide for it.
Yes, this is data taken from a Lancet article published in 2019 that had a very good qualitative comparison of the clinical data meta-analysis. We took the effect size and then compared with our drug. As you can see, clozapine is one of the most potent drug, but it has a lot of side effects. It's not widely used. So, but if you look at the olanzapine and risperidone, these are the widely used antipsychotics in the acute treatment. And then our drug certainly has a equal or comparable or better data. And in the long-term treatment, often the widely used dose, of course, Abilify, aripiprazole, it is used in the acute setup as well, but it is mainly, to my knowledge, it is used in the long-term. Aripiprazole compared to ours, if you look at, we have a much better efficacy outcome. Safety-wise as well, in the phase 2 study, we compared aripiprazole with our drug. The comparative data, what we have, both in terms of efficacy and then safety and a compliance discontinuation rate, we believe our drug has a much better profile.
Okay, very good. Looks like we only have time for probably one more question, but we've got it here. What is the market size for broloxazine? I think you may have mentioned that before. And what could pricing be if approved?
So the pricing market size, and then we are currently evaluating the market research based on the phase 3 data. So we believe the market size for this one with at least if not better, at least a comparable to current branded drug. If you look at all the brexpiprazole, cariprazine, lurasidone, or aripiprazole in the historically, drugs showed good efficacy, especially the negative symptoms, and incremental improvement in safety captured. These drugs became around a 2 billion plus sales in 2 to 3 years. So we believe we have generated good data here. Again, our expectation is our drug also should do in the similar landscape or even better. So it only once we have the full development, only then we can come up with a realistic value. But at this time, based on the data in hand, we are very optimistic that it will be similar to whether aripiprazole or even better.
Okay, very good. Well, thank you, Dr. Bott. I appreciate it. And again, we've had myself, Senior Life Sciences Analyst John Vandermosten, and the CEO of Reviva Pharmaceuticals, Dr. Lexman Ryan Bott, on today's Virtual Investor Life Sciences panel. All right, or
Thank
not
you.
panel. Yeah,
Thank you,
great.
John. Thank you, all viewers. Thank you.
Always good to talk. A pleasure.